Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the IELTS Civics Network meeting for California. It's May 28th, 2025, and this is our last meeting for the program year. We're thrilled to have you with us. I'm Lori Howard. I'm joined today by Portia LaFerla and Stephanie Fitzpatrick. Together, we make up the IELTS Civics team, and we're here to help you understand some things that are going on in California. Please type your name and agency in the chat so we can keep track of your attendance. That's helpful to us. And if you haven't yet registered, please go to caadultedtraining.org and register for this meeting so we can count your attendance. That would be great. And I sent everyone yesterday, you may have received it this morning, a reminder about this meeting. If you did not receive it from my email address, lbhoward@casas.org, then you might want to email elcivics@casas.org to get on our EL Civics network list so we can keep you informed of the meetings, but also of any new things that happen in EL Civics in California. So our agenda today, we're going to have a CDE update from the last meeting early in May. We're going to talk about civic participation and IELCE, a little bit of other information, and then the bulk of our presentation today will be two wonderful presentations. First, about digital resilience, the digital resilience framework, and we have Jeff Gumas and Rachel Riggs from World Education to talk to us about that. And then Megan Eberly, who's assistant principal at Castro Valley Adult and Career Education, will tell us about their clinical medical assisting IELCE program. And we hope that sharing will be useful to you as you work on your IELCE IET programs for the coming year. Any additions to our agenda today? Okay, let us move ahead. So the first, just remind you that every month there's a statewide WIOA 2 network meeting. Someone from your agency should attend that and then disseminate that information. The slides are always available to you on the CASAS website. The last meeting was May 6th, and I offered you the slides and the passcode so you can go view that if you haven't already. This link just shows you where the meetings are in general. And to tell you, next Tuesday, that will be the June meeting, June 3rd at 1 p.m. and you can register at caadultedtraining.org. So I highly recommend that at least one person from your agency participates in those meetings. At this last meeting, information about immigrant integration and SB 670 was disseminated. And so Portia LaFerla was at that meeting and she volunteered to talk to you about what was talked about and give you a little bit deeper information about that. Portia, do you want to go ahead? And I'll move the slides for you as you request.
Okay, thank you, Lori. So Dr. Zachary spoke about SB 670, and it has to do with the immigrant integration goal area. What are they called?
Indicators.
Immigrant integration.
Indicators.
Indicators. Thank you, Laura. And I can never remember the third I to this. But anyway, they have updated the definition of immigrant integration and have made it a mandatory reporting requirement. That's what the goal of this is. We've all been reporting immigrant integration indicators through use of COAPs. And Lori, if you'll change the slide to the next one. This is a document that's posted on the CASAS website on the EL Civics page. The previous slide had the link to this, and it shows you on the left side, it's the number of the COAPs. So is it COAP 1, 2, 3, 4? And then if you're familiar with the document, you know that the ones that have little daggers on them, those are the ones that are 243 COAPs. So all COAPs are 231, but the ones with the little dagger are also 243. And then in the middle, it's the short description. And then on the right, it tells us what immigrant integration goal area these COAPs are related to. And there are 5 areas. So there's economic security, children and family, civic and community participation, education and career, and health and well-being. So this is a correlation chart. When your students complete an EL Civics COAP, it is correlated with an immigrant integration goal area. And then the next one, please. This is an example of a CAPE summary. And in this one, you can see there's a column circled in red that says past I3. And then there are some numbers. And if you notice, this is a CAPE report. It tells you how many co-ops were completed by students in different areas. And you can see here ESL, ABASE, and CTE. So there's a difference between EL Civics under WIOA 2 and immigrant integration. When you complete a co-op under WIOA 2, you get a payment point if you have a pre-post test entry update 12 hours and the student passes that assessment. You get a payment point. All of those co-ops that your students complete get put into this CAPE summary or this CAPE report. CAPE is a little bit different in that there are no payment points. You do not get payment points for these, but you do get outcomes. And a student will get an immigrant or an I3 indicator, will get credit for that, even if they don't have all of the required elements for WIOA. So they might not have a pre-post test. If they complete the co-op successfully, they do get an outcome for that. And then the next one, Lori.
Oh, sorry.
Okay. This is another display. It says, and it's also a CAPE outcome report. And again, it tells you which groups of students completed how many co-ops. And the next one, Lori. This one comes from an agency, and it shows you what the goal areas are for the co-ops that they attempted. So for example, this school did 973 and 974 for the citizenship interview test. They also did the government history listening test. Those are how many were attempted, how many were passed, and their percentage, their pass rate percentage. Then under health and well-being, this agency did 3 co-ops. They did 46, 30, and 28. And again, it gives you the attempts, the passing rate. They did 1 under education and career, co-op 70. They did 1 under civic and community participation, co-op 12, civic objective 12. And then they did 2 under digital literacy. So that's how those areas are reported in the CAPE I3 summary. And then the last one, I think there's just one more, Lori, right? This one is, whoops, sorry. This one's for the WIOA I3 summary. You can also look at the WIOA I3 summary. This does not give you CTE or ABE. It only gives you ESL because those are the only students that, that get credit for doing the co-ops. So again, this gives you the numbers under each of these different goal areas. And if you want to see that one under, for the WIOA 2, it's in the, let me see if I can get you that report. Sorry. Anyway, it's under the California State Reports, and go to the WIOA 2 I3 summary, and you'll get that information for your students. Any questions about that? Okay, thank you, Lori.
And one of the reasons this could be important to you as CAPE agencies is that the CDE is considering offering payment points to ABE and ASE learners in the new RFA. We're not sure about that yet, but it's under consideration. So it's even more important for you to be considering how you are completing these goals, these immigrant integration outcome indicators. So let's move on now to civic participation and IELCE. I just have some short information for you, and then we'll get to our presentations. So I just wanted to remind you that you should have selected the co-ops for 24-25. The last day to add, edit, or delete co-ops was April 30th. You should have done before April 30th, but you can still do to make sure that all the co-ops you have assessed this year or will assess have been selected and downloaded into TE. I invariably get calls at the last minute. Oh no, we didn't download, we didn't select. So be sure you've done that. Okay, check that today. So on May 31st, everything's going to roll over and we'll be in the 25-26 year, and there will be nothing to be done about it. So be sure you've selected and downloaded all of your co-ops for this year so that you can appropriately get the payment points that your learners have earned. Also to tell you that on July 1st, all the documents on the EL Civics page will be updated for the new program year. These links currently go to this year's 24-25, but they will in a few weeks go to the 25-26 versions, and you'll be able to make your selections starting on July 1st and afterwards. No major changes have been made, but you should always check the revision to COAPS documents linked here, and we'll be including all of the new COAPS that are there as well. And then, as always, it's great if you look at all the documents on July 1st or close to then, and then periodically, if we make updates, we always highlight them in green or make them green print so that you can tell, you don't have to read the document again. You can just skim through to see any new additions because those will be in green. And when you go to the selection page on July 1st or after to select your COAPS, the first time you enter, you'll see a screen like this. And I understand these dates are not correct, but you'll see what you have selected here, the numbers you have selected. You can view the new version there if you want to. And then you can either select what you did last year because that meets your needs assessments, or you can remove what was selected last year and then continue the selection process by adding any new COAPS that your agency has decided to add because of the needs assessment of your learners. So this only shows up the very first time. So be sure you're ready to make your selections. And if you aren't quite ready, just go ahead and select whatever was there last year, and then you can always make changes afterwards. So you can make changes up till April 30th of the next year, 26, but in the same program year. And remember, always you need to make some selection by October 31st of the program year as well. So these are just some instructions. Select what your agency had the previous year or remove those selections. That's what I just said. If you have any option 2 or option 3 COAPS in the year, be sure you select them because that's the only way to keep them active in the system, even if you don't think you'll be using them that year. And then click on continue the selection process to add any other COAPS. And then most importantly, be sure you go to checkout, because if you don't go to checkout, it won't get registered into the system. You should always receive an email that you went to checkout and that your selections are there. If you don't receive an email, that means probably that you did not go to checkout. So make sure you do that. Any questions? Okay, let's move on. Just want to mention about proxying tests, that you can use CASA's post-test administered in this year as pre-test for summer school 25-26 up until, so any test administered between May 1st and June 30th can be rolled over to the next program year. And all proxy tests are given a date of July 1. And I think you can do this until September. So just move along with that if you're going to do it. And the FAQ involved is here at this link. Again, it hasn't been updated for this year, but it will be very soon. I just want to remind you about summer school. We've passed the April 30th deadline, so now hopefully you're for summer school programs, which will begin instruction on or after July 1st, and will complete the hours after July 1st. Then you're going to use the new 25-26. So be sure to make those selections as soon as possible, while you're offering those summer school selections or summer school courses. Any questions? This is all review information, but we like to remind you every year. Okay, I just wanted to let you know that we had, I think, 8 new COAPS this year. Thank you for all your suggestions about new COAPS. Thanks to the Financial Literacy Focus Group for doing 1.1. We're so excited that we have an AI COAP 48.6. We hope you'll start using that one. And just want to let you know that these all are offered now, and they're all pre-approved, and you can select them as part of your program for next year if they match with your needs assessment. OTAN asked me to give you this information, that they have a pilot program with the Celia T. And if you were at the February EL Civics Network meeting, you were told about that, and you can see that information again here at this YouTube I've linked below. But just to remind you, Celia T is a free open access civics, US history, and ESL digital skills curriculum. And it includes English proficiency, understanding US history and culture, and basic digital skills. And they're looking for teachers who'd like to participate in the fall pilot to use these materials and resources with your learners. And if you would like to do that, they'd like you to go to this link and fill out the form so that they can tell you more about this program. So consider that for your courses for the fall. Also reminding you that in less than 2 weeks, we will be at the Summer Institute, and we hope many of you will join us there. Lots of great presentations. We'll all be there. We'll be doing EL Civics Basics and understanding EL Civics co-ops and citizenship, and a lot of other great presentations. There'll be one about using Canvas courses added to our new EL Civics Exchange. So we hope you'll look into that one as well. So lots of good things, and hope you'll join us. Any questions? Okay, just want to let you know our next meeting is going to be August 27th, 2025. We don't have the rest of our meetings planned for next year, but we will by August 27th, if not before. If you'd like to share your great, any programming you're doing, your IELCE programs, please, why don't you email elcivics@casas.org and let us know that you'd like to share something, either a program or IELCE program, or any best practice you're doing, and we'd love to have you share at the meetings. I don't think anybody has asked any questions, so why don't we move along to our presentations. Our first presenter is Jeff Gumis. I hope I'm pronouncing your name right, from World Education, a great organization. Did I pronounce it right, Jeff?
You did. That's
good. Good. Digital Resilience Framework. Now, we've been talking about digital resilience, and as we've told you before, we've updated our language and literacy objectives for our co-ops 47 and 48 to match the digital resilience framework. We've added a couple of new co-ops, the AI one and another, to update what we've been doing in digital resilience. And Jeff is here to tell you about the framework and other resources you can use to enhance your instruction. So Jeff, I'm going to stop sharing. You can share and take it away.
All right, let me share my screen. Are folks able to see my screen? Perfect, thank you, Megan. All right, so as Lori mentioned, my name is Jeff Gumis. I'm a senior technical advisor with World Education, and what I'm going to share with you today is a digital resilience toolkit that we've developed over the past few years called Bridges. And this work is started in 2019 when we recognized there was a need for clearer definitions of digital skills. And clear identification of what the digital skills are that are needed for our learners. And we do specifically focus on adult learners with this toolkit. And within that, not having necessarily, without having standards like CASAS objectives or the college and career readiness standards for adult education, people recognize the need for digital skills and digital skill building, but there wasn't necessarily guideposts for how to go about doing that. And so what we're going to walk through is all of the resources that we've compiled over the past now 6 years that comprise this toolkit, and it starts with a digital skills framework. And so today, and I think I have a half hour, Lori, is that correct? Sorry, Lori.
Yes, yeah, half hour would be great.
Okay, awesome. We're going to start by defining digital skills and thinking about when we're seeing technology in use, what are the skills that are actually at play? And then we're going to examine the toolkit. And we're going to look at tools that are in this toolkit for identifying digital skills that you might want to build for learners, as well as then tools and resources for actually developing those skills. So a slew of instructional resources that are all aligned to this framework. So what I'm actually going to do, just to kind of get our brains going and thinking about digital skills, is I'm going to show two videos, neither of which has sound. So when I start playing them, you don't have to worry, there is no sound. But as you watch the video, what I want you to do in the chat is to identify what digital skills you see at play with what's happening in the video. So here is the first video. Okay, so that was the first video. So what digital skills that person who just was doing that task on a phone, what skills did they need? So I see typing, yep, typing on a mobile keyboard, which is different than typing on a laptop keyboard, using social media, image editing, or just creating digital content, creating that video was something that that user was doing. Anything else that you saw happening? What were they actually doing on social media? What was they were taking a video and then doing what with that video? Posting the picture, posting the photo, yeah. So these may be skills that your learners may already have. And one of the things that we believe when we're looking at digital skill development and helping learners develop digital skills is learners do come to you probably having some digital skills based on the things that they're using. And the reason we call this a digital resilience toolkit is because digital resilience is not just about knowing how to do one thing with one tool, but it's knowing what you're doing with that tool so that you can transfer those skills into other settings, maybe with other technologies that you've never seen, because you know that if I can say post something to Facebook, I can post something to LinkedIn, or I can post something to Canvas and a discussion board. The term post is a digital term. And so the toolkit really looks at both the skills and the language that is behind those skills, because if you can't describe what it is you're doing, then it's not necessarily something that you can transfer into other scenarios. So I'm seeing things like upload, post, social media, typing, and those are all digital skills terms. All right, now I'm going to go to a second video, and this is from a desktop computer. And again, you can feel free to type in the chat as the video is playing, but no sound again. What digital skills do you see at play? All right, I've done these two videos many times. This is the most active people have ever been during the video, so this is great. So yeah, scrolling is the very first thing you see in navigating the Windows operating system. Again, typing, creating a new document in Word, saving the document, formatting the document, saving and naming the document. All of those are things that were happening in that video. And the reason I show both of these examples, the first one being probably skills that many of your learners may come knowing how to do, this being something that they may not know how to do, or not necessarily all of those things. And so when we look at identifying digital skills, or the digital skills that we're going to focus on with learners, part of that is what are learners coming to us with, but then also where do we want them to be? What skills do they need? And so based on knowing what a learner's goals are, within that, you will define some of the digital skills that that person needs. So something like designing a resume or creating a resume in Microsoft Word or Google Docs, all of the things that you saw in here are things that a learner would need to know how to do in order to do that, and then apply for jobs. And so I just do this exercise so that we can think about the minutiae, if you will, of all of the things that go into somebody effectively and confidently using technology. So we're going to now dive into the Bridges Skills Framework. So as I mentioned, we started this work in 2019. And what we were doing at that time, we were part of a broad coalition called Digital Us. And our focus was to identify where there were gaps in digital skills development, as well as where we were seeing through multiple landscape scans effective practices for building digital skills and filling digital skills gaps. And one of the gaps that we saw was, as I said earlier, a digital skills framework. And so we looked at a number of different frameworks that were out there. And it just so happens that at that point in time, the University of Washington and the city of Seattle and their digital equity initiative had themselves done a pretty significant landscape scan called Digital Skill Sets for Diverse Users. And what they did in that study was they looked at things like North Star Digital Literacy Assessment, ISTE, which is the International Society for Technology and Education, DigComp, which is a European Union skills framework. So they looked at different frameworks and assessments, and then they also looked at curricula such as GCF Learn Free, which is from Goodwill Community Foundation, and digitallearn.org, which is from the Public Library Association. And from looking at all of those different ways in which digital skills are identified, they basically distilled down to what were the most common skills that were being asked for or identified within these various frameworks and curricula. And they narrowed it down to 75 skills organized across 10 domains, which we, for the past 5 years, have been calling the Seattle Digital Equity Initiative Digital Skills Framework. But then we realized so much of our work was aligning things to it that we actually adapted the framework and made it our own. So I'm going to share a link in the chat, and you can feel free to just save this or make a copy of it if you want to type in it. But I'm sharing this with you because this is just the list of the skills in the framework. And this will be our first step for just understanding how the framework is actually organized. So this is that framework that we adapted, and we broke it into 3 different sections: foundational skills, productivity skills, and I'll go into the individual domains in a second, and independent learning skills. And then within those 3 larger buckets, we have these domains. So gateway skills, which are really the most foundational skills. So things like using the mouse and keyboard, using basic browser tools, connecting to Wi-Fi, device ownership, so how to own and maintain a device, privacy and security. Oh, you need access? Sorry. Oh, that should not have been the case. I'm so sorry. Okay. Go ahead and refresh, or I'll just share the link again, and it should work for you. Thank you for pointing that out, Cindy. All right, so the foundational skills, and each one of these things with a 3-letter or 2-letter and 1-digit code are the skills. This is the gateway skills domain, device ownership. Then we have privacy and security skills, and then we have mobile skills. So again, we consider these foundational skills because these, if someone's going to be online, privacy and security is obviously of utmost important. And a lot of our learners, we know their online access is primarily through mobile. Then we have productivity skills. So these are 3 domains looking at using technology to perform tasks using technology. So that being communication or creation or workplace and productivity tasks. So this is actually leveraging technology in ways to develop things. And then finally, we have independent learning skills. And this focuses on skills that are needed for everyday tasks and for helping people participate in continually developing their skills, since technology does not stop. So online life, what does it mean to be online? What are the things that one can do when they are online? Information skills, so knowing how to evaluate information and access information sources. And then lifelong learning. So this is the full set of 75 skills across the 10 domains. And this is the starting point for which we started building out this thing that we now call the Bridges Digital Resilience Toolkit. So I want you to now, with that in hand, go back to or think about the 2 videos you saw and see if you can find the specific Bridges skill in that document that aligns to the skills that we identified as happening in either of these 2 scenarios. So when I say that, I mean, I'll go to one here real quickly. So communication, so post on social media. Oh, Cynthia, you're good. So post on social media would be one of those skills that you saw under the communication domain. So what other skills from the 2 videos, what Bridges skills did you see? And as I assume Cynthia did here, you can probably just drag, copy, paste. Awesome. Gosh, you guys are great. Connect to Wi-Fi, create documents. Use social media. So there's a couple different skills that focus on social media. Sharing information with others. Use the mouse and keyboard. Excellent. Yep, that's great. And as I mentioned, until someone pointed this out to me being a native English speaker, I never observed the fact that when you're teaching the keyboard, that on a computer, it's capital letters, and then on a mobile device, it's lowercase letters. Never dawned on me that those were very different things. And if someone's learning English, that's one very understanding your computer. Yep. All right, so I think you got the hang of it. The point of this being just to know how to navigate this skills framework, because that's what's going to be helpful as we dive into the full toolkit and think about what skills and resources are going to be relevant to you based on what it is that you are doing with your learners. So now we're going to dive into the toolkit. And the toolkit has all of these things. So this is going to be a bit rapid fire in terms of what we do in the next 16 minutes. But basically, we're going to walk through all of these things so that you can see what's available in the toolkit. So for each of those skills that you see in the document I shared, we have examples of what those skills look like in life, in work, for education, and for teachers and trainers, just to provide some tangible understanding of what the skill means and what one can do when they have those skills. Then we're going to look at a set of checklists that are available, both for self-assessment and goal setting. So again, basically what these are taking the full set of skills and identifying which specific skills are going to be most important to different types of learners, such as seniors, or parents, or job seekers. And then we're going to look at crosswalks really briefly, but we have crosswalks of Bridges to North Star. So if your program uses North Star, yep. Yvonne, I can do that. So if your program uses North Star, or if you've done anything with ISTE, this just allows you to see what the relevant bridges skills are to those. And we do not have a crosswalk to the CASAS objectives, but I am going to point out, how you could sort of winnow down to find learning resources that might be helpful for you. Say you decide to pick up a digital literacy co-op next year. And then we're going to look at the resources, the learning resources that are in there. So we have a digital skills library that has over 2,000 resources that are aligned to the framework. So you can go to any skill in the framework and see aligned resources that align to that you could use for instruction, as well as a glossary that has over 350 terms. And the glossary is by domain, so you can actually build slide decks using the glossary for the specific terms that you want to use. So basically, as I said earlier, being able to put language to these things is really important. And so one of the tasks that we did early on when we were building out this Bridges framework was to develop a digital skills glossary. And then we're going to look at two tools that go beyond just explicit digital skills instruction, but if you wanted to integrate digital skills into your teaching. One is the EdTech Integration Strategy Toolkit, which is EdTech routines. So say doing things on a regular basis, such as having students complete exit tickets or having students do some sort of check-in using a tool like Padlet. And basically routines that you could do on a regular basis that not only engage learners in different ways using technology, but also develop digital skills. So thinking about, if I'm using this technology, what are the digital skills being developed when I'm doing this, and how do I convey that to learners so they know what skills that they're developing when they're using technology. And then finally, if there's time, I'll show a tool called Skill Blocks, but there's links in here that you can look at that will provide you with all of the details that you need to explore further after this session. So in terms of identifying digital skills, just because of time, we'll look at one. So there's 3 of these, and I use these with programs, and then programs who are using Bridges and doing training with their teachers, they use these as well, or other personas that they've developed. But here's a learner persona that let's just look at for Hannah here. And in the chat, doing similar to what we just did, identify the skills that would be most important to this learner. So Farhana is an Afghan refugee who is comfortable using her mobile device, but has never used a computer. She wants to learn how to use a computer so she can begin exploring local community services. So in the chat, one more time, if you can say which skills would be most important to focus on for Farhana from the Bridges framework. Searching the internet. Yep, that's obviously for finding local community services. Using the mouse and keyboard. Since she has not ever used a computer, pretty much everything in the gateway skills are going to be things that we want to work on with Farhana, because that is sort of the foundational set of skills for using computers. Anything else? I'm going to understanding your computer. So yeah, see, you're getting the point. These are all in that domain of gateway skills and online life skills. That's great, Miranda. Yeah, the online life skills really do focus on what can I do online? And one of those things is exploring community and local services. All right, so now we're going to dive into the actual toolkit. So I gave you the set of skills, and now I'm going to share a link to the toolkit while I also launch into it. And if you need to come back, it's digitalskillslibrary.org. And you'll see there's other things on here, but we're going to focus on Bridges, which is right here. So Bridges basically is a both Google Doc and an interactive version of a toolkit. So I'm actually going to click on this link here just so you can see the Google Doc version, because this is provides more details about each of the resources, and it explains each of the resources in the toolkit. So if I go there and scroll down, what you will see is all of those domains. And you'll see that for each of the domains, there's guiding questions, there's the list of skills, there's the skills in action. We have things called empowering practices, which are considerations to be made when developing those skills so that you're being inclusive. The vocabulary terms that are relevant to that particular domain, and then tools that are relevant to that domain. And so if I scroll through here, I'll just show you the front matter, if you will, because everything else is in the interactive toolkit, which is what I want to make sure you leave here today knowing how to navigate. But it gives an overview, and then it identifies the core components, which I just talked about. But the tools for identifying digital skills are the framework itself, the skills framework, the checklists, and the skills crosswalks. And then the tools for building digital skills are this library of learning resources, the glossary, and the EdTech Integration Strategy Toolkit. I shared this doc here now just so you can see that you can read up on each of those resources in more detail. So this document provides a lot more guidance on what each of those things is, the tools for identifying and the tools for building digital skills. It just gives an explanation and a detailed deep dive in terms of what these tools are and how you might use them. But I'm going to now pop back over into the first link I shared, which was the Bridges homepage. And I'm going to click on Explore Bridges Interactive. So when I go here, you're going to see that those same 10 domains are listed here under those 3 buckets. So foundational skills, productivity skills, and independent learning skills. And you'll see if I click on any of these, I'm going to get basically, when you saw that table of contents, this has all of the things that were listed in that table of contents, but in an interactive format. So the skills, the terms, the tools, resources that align to the skills within this domain, and empowering practices. So the first thing we'll look at are the skills and relevant examples. So in the doc and in the interactive version, all of the skills are listed for each domain, as well as these I can statements. So in my life, in my work, in my education as a teacher and trainer. So every single skill has these 4 examples. There's many more that you could probably come up with, but they provide, again, tangible examples of what that skill actually looks like. So I'm going to go, I'm going to go into skills now, and I'm in the communication domain. You can go to any domain you want or that's of interest. And what you'll see is here's the list of skills. And if I go to any skill, say post on social media, because that was a skill that we identified as being in that first video, here's that skill in my life, in my work, in my education as a teacher or trainer. But what you'll also see is below, there are learning resources. And so these learning resources have all been aligned by educators, by adult educators, through a process that we use called the EdTech Makerspace, where we work with teachers to help them learn about different skills frameworks, but then also apply that to actually curate resources as they relate to a particular skill or skills. And so for every single skill, and you may have noticed in the document, if you clicked on any of those links, it brought you to this page. So for every single skill, we have the I can statements and then these aligned learning resources that you can use and explore to maybe use in your instruction to develop that particular skill. Then you can also see the vocabulary terms that align to the skills within this particular domain, communication. So what you see here is terms and definitions in just this table format that list out everything. But you'll also see that there were two links at the top. One is a Google Sheets document and one is Google Slides. The Google Sheets is the full glossary. So if you wanted all of the words and definitions that are part of Bridges, these are all in here. You can also see by domain each of the different domain lists if you want to do that. But there's also these slides. And I think the slides are the most interesting piece here because these slides were developed by adult educators, again, in one of our EdTech makerspaces, where we had teachers pull open definitions that are openly licensed. And so you can see all of the definitions have a licensing here that is Creative Commons, and then all the images do as well. And so this lists out all of the terms that are in that list with a definition, with the word used in a sentence, and with some sort of image. It could be an icon or something sort of symbolic. But these are things that you could download and you could use and adapt for your learners. So maybe you wanted a different image for, say, this particular term, like BCC or block. You could adapt this however you see fit. And so I just want to show you a quick tip because I think this is one way that we've seen people use it. So say I was focused on posting on social media, which was the specific skill that we had mentioned earlier. So I'm going to do this very quickly, but if I wanted to focus on social media tools, so I might do like, so I can click on this, and if I hold down the control button, I'm going to continue down, and let me grab share, post. So I'm holding down control social media and social media platforms. So when I hold control and click, I'm selecting just those slides that I want. And then I can go to File and make a copy of the selected slides. And now I have my own slide deck that I own, that I have the ability to change anything I want on here, just for the terms that I want to focus on with my learners for, say, a particular lesson. And so these slides are available for each of the domains and for all 350 something terms that are in the glossary. And again, completely adaptable resources that you can use with your learners. We also have tools. And so for every domain, we list out tools that leverage the skills that are part of that domain. And I look at this as being two different things. One, this could be thinking about tools that you might want to use in your instruction. So if you have a specific tool that you are already using, are there skills that you could be focusing on and having learners develop? So if you're using Canvas, for example, Canvas is something that has group discussion boards where students are posting either to a public forum within your class or direct communication with you. So if you work backwards from what it is they're doing, what are the skills that they're actually developing? The other thing that I think about this as is if you know what learners' goals are and you know they're going to be using specific or need to learn how to use specific digital tools, this provides kind of a way for you to identify what tools you might want to focus on. And then again, think about the related skills that they're going to need to develop. I'm going to skip over to the empowering practices. And so these are also available for each of the domains. And I know I have about 2 minutes, so I'm going to stop in a second. And the empowering practices basically, again, as I mentioned, provide guidance and awareness points for you to be inclusive when you are teaching digital skills. So in thinking about, say, communication, understanding that your learners may come from different cultures and they may have different communication norms. Or things like social media, while that is an important skill, some learners may not want to use it or may not be interested in using it at all. And just recognizing that and then thinking about and providing guidance for how you can take action through your instruction and training and in your program design to make sure that you are being inclusive when you're using technology with your learners and developing their digital skills. The last thing I'm going to share here are the resources. And so every tab has these resources, but I'm going to point out the first two here that are here for every single domain. This is always the first two. One are these crosswalks. So this, again, is crosswalks to ISTE and to North Star and to DigComp. And so if you use North Star, for example, this lists out all of the objectives of the North Star framework and provides a link to the related bridges skills. So if a learner on a North Star test demonstrates that they need to work on a particular skill, you can click on you can see which related skills there are from bridges, and then you can click on any of these links. And just like what we saw earlier, as I was navigating the framework, clicking on that link brings you straight to this page here. The other resource here, that's the second one listed, is the checklists for different learner types. And this is the one I mentioned earlier. So what you'll see is this provides a whole host of different tools that you can use for prioritizing the skills that you want to focus on. And again, it has these user-specific checklists for employment, for senior citizens, for a parent, for education, for beginning users, so that you're not having to think about which of the 75 skills do I want to focus on, but maybe narrowing it down to specific skills and domains that are going to be relevant to that particular learner. And then we also have within this these self-assessment checklists, connecting to the internet, using the internet, an interesting one called the Minimum Digital Living Standard, a distance learning readiness checklist, and a communication digital skills checklist. And these are available as templates for you in Google Docs and in Google Forms. I'll just click on one so you can see what this is. Again, this is a checklist for you to use where learners can self-identify whether they have the skill maybe or not yet. And through this, again, we have the links to the relevant skills that would be of importance to them if they want to build that particular skill. So I'm going to stop now.
Any questions for Jeff? Well, Jeff, I want to thank you for giving us this great overview of the digital resilience framework. I just want to mention also it was great at the end seeing the self-assessments, because we very much took to heart these self-assessments and how important that is in teachers deciding what they should be teaching to their learners. And so it's so great to see that you have some examples or ones that teachers could actually use to assess their learners before they dive into teaching digital skills. Everybody's saying how fantastic it was. We really appreciate getting this resource. I think people are going to be planning and doing things during the summer, so it's great to have this resource available to us. And again, we have correlated these skills to our COAPS and our language and literacy skills. And we did make a little bit of a crosswalk, which we have not published yet. So now maybe we'll consider doing that to see if that would be helpful to our teachers here in California.
That'd be great.
Thanks again. We really appreciate it. Any last minute questions for Jeff? We have your links, and I will share them again with the group, all of your links. We really appreciate you being with us today. Everybody says thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, Jeff. Okay. now we are so lucky today to have not one, but two great presentations. And our last presentation is by Megan Eberly, who's with Castro Valley Adult and Career Education. And they've been doing a clinical medical assisting program. And I thought, as we move into the summer and you will be hopefully working on planning your IELCE, IET programs for the fall, that it would be great to hear from Megan about her program. So Megan, I'm going to turn it over to you. I'm going to stop sharing and let you share your slides. And we look forward to hearing about your great program.
Perfect. Thanks, Lori. And also, I have dragooned into helping Cindy Gravog, who is one of our fabulous ESL teachers at Civic, and she has had a lot to do with working on the ESL side of the IELCE programs with the Medical Academy. So I'm very grateful for her more than capable assistance. And so we'll be tag teaming a few slides. My name is Megan Eberly. I'm one of the assistant principals at Civic, and we have been fortunate enough to be one of the recipients of the ELL Healthcare Pathways funding opportunity. And as many of you who are involved in that know, that there was a little bit of the old adage of building the airplane while the airplane was flying at many, many, many hundreds of miles per hour. So some of what we have gone through this year is absolutely a result of that. But we also are fortunate enough to have had a very stable and really well-grounded medical academy. And so there's actually been a slight change in the past few months into how we think about this, because in the past we called it CMA. We called this the clinical medical assistant class. But I'll say finally, because this is actually one of my points of confusion as I started to understand more about the CTE programs at our school. We're finally calling it medical assistant. So this is both CMA and AMA. We do offer AMA as a separate program, but if there's a student who's going to be engaged in this clinical medical assistant program, they also kind of automatically get the administrative medical assistant. So all of this is in lead up to preparation to take either the state or national certifications. And we also are including, although I'm not going to talk about it much today, community health worker as another one of the possibilities for our capstone classes. So a student in the medical academy, we're building our pathways, and a student might end their involvement with our school, hopefully with a job as a medical assistant, or they might get that job, go through the program, and then come back and stack a CHW certificate on top of that. So a little bit of flexibility, a little bit of multiple pathways. But we also have folks who are engaging in the CHW program, the community health worker program, who that is what they are doing. And that's the job they want to be involved in. They're not in the medical assisting program. So a couple of different options, and a couple of different pathways. So in terms of our team, we are, again, really fortunate to have a really big team at this time. Some of this is grant funded through that funding opportunity, and others have been have had a long-standing history with CVACE. So we do at this moment have, as I said, two specific capstone courses, medical assisting or MA, and then its companion MA English, and then CHW or community health worker with health navigator, as long as CHW English. And then we're fitting in introduction to healthcare careers along with IHC English. And a note on this particular course, Cindy, one of the other reasons why I dragooned her today is because she, along with Shelley Sherman, one of our CTE coordinators, and we have been engaged in the IET clinic this year offered through CalPro. And although Cindy and I have kind of been doing IELCE work and IET work by extension for some time, some of the terminology was newer to Shelley. And just because Cindy and I have been doing this for a few years, Cindy for more than double what I've been doing, we still had lots of questions. And we found the clinic to be incredibly illuminating in terms of validating our questions and providing a little bit of guidance as to, okay, so yep, we're right to question, but how do we move forward? And that's been really great to be able to engage in some of the conversations that are currently happening, of course, at our agency, but also at the state level. So that's been really interesting. One of the, or two of the positions that were funded through the pathway that we're not sure we're going to be able to sustain past it, so we're hoping for more funding opportunities, is to have an outreach coordinator, which is part of the consortium, and then to have a job developer. And both of those have been key. To have somebody consistently able to go out to our partner agencies, and in a minute you're going to see a pretty long list of partner agencies, and it's because of his efforts. And then you're going to see some of those partner agencies on the job development side, and that's because of her efforts. So were I to give this presentation a year ago, we would not be nearly as well built out. So I just want to recognize the changes that have taken place over the past year. We've pretty much doubled our team. So specifically about medical assistant, we currently have 2 classes, and again, that's the doubling of offerings due to the healthcare pathway funding. We did previously have a daytime course, and then this spring we have added an evening course. They've always been a little bit hybrid, these courses. So in general, the students, there's a slight preference for a hybrid, although I'm going to say that I think a lot of them would rather be in person, but that's just not always the case. They don't always have that possibility. And so by having a hybrid option, or in this case, both of these classes are essentially hybrid courses, we are able to broaden our potential student pool, if you will, and that's been really gratifying. And you'll notice there's a slight difference in terms of the number of hours, but the evening course goes on for more weeks than the daytime course. It's just past, 7 or 9 o'clock at night, brains turn a little bit mushy. So we didn't want to, we needed to stretch out the evening program so that we were able to respond to the needs of students who are working during the day. And then we also have our CHW program, as I mentioned earlier, and then the Introduction to Healthcare Careers program. And I think I've missed one of the things I wanted to say about engaging in the IET clinic this spring. It was the Introduction to Healthcare Careers class that Cindy and Shelley and I have been working on, trying to really sort of reposition it within the pathway. And so at this time, it's probably not going to be one of these capstone classes. It'll be more of a bridge class, but we're working on reimagining that. So this was that long list of team members and partnerships that we are really grateful to get to work with. Some folks, we focus more on the recruitment side, on outreach, and then others, we focus more on the job development side. These might be places that we are working with for externships, or places where we, have been able to place students to get a job at the conclusion of their training. Our recruitment, as I said earlier, is primarily through our outreach specialists, but not entirely. We just today tabled an event at our local library. So the tabling events is not a small piece. We do a lot of that, and we fortunately have a couple of really outgoing front office staff members who really enjoy doing this kind of thing, and they are incredibly personable and charismatic, and they do attract folks to their table, and it's really lovely to watch them engage with folks who didn't really realize the kinds of opportunities that we do have to provide. And we also still believe in doing some print media. So I get to work on a 4 times a yearly brochure. We alternate between a brochure and a mailer, and that goes out to all the households in the Castro Valley community. We're in an unincorporated area of Alameda County, just to place us geographically in the state. So we're kind of a unicorn of a community. I know there's quite a few different communities who are unincorporated areas, but our adult school's been in existence for over 50 years. So we have this really great connection to the community, as well as being able to support some of our sister agencies in the consortium who might be located, they're in, neighboring communities, neighboring cities, but where they happen to be geographically is at enough of a distance where folks who technically live in that city are actually closer to our school. So we do we have a lot of flexibility with that with our consortium. We have a dedicated office support person who works on intake because there is so much paperwork involved with the medical assistant program. And that's been really key to have that office technician support position where he, on a student by student basis, works with the students to get their paperwork in. And as all of us know, that's sometimes more work with certain students than others, and it's just part of the nature of adult education. So really working with students to make sure that all of their test results are in, that their high school diploma has been, in some way, we've got their transcript or they've got their equivalency, and he works with all of that. So we're really grateful for his support. He's a very organized and goal-oriented young man, and he's doing a great job. So in terms of wraparound support services, we are able to take advantage of a lot of the services that CVACE does have available. We do have the benefit of having a mental health counselor for about 20 hours a week, and she can provide individual or group counseling as needed. We have a referral service with QR codes available on a little flyer that's on everybody's classroom door. And our teachers are not shy about making sure that the coordination of student services team is aware of any issues that might be happening with students. We also have an academic counselor or a transition specialist who can work with all sorts of things. And I know that's something that a lot of adult schools enjoy. I mentioned our office tech earlier. He's invaluable. And then our job developer. And then we also have one of our ESL teachers who's involved in the medical academy. She comes to us from a very community-based background, and she has worked in public health for some time. So she's been able to really make connections to local assistance agencies that we did not have those connections previously. And she's been really great about taking a list of resources that has been gathered over the years, but hasn't really always been updated. And she's organized and contacted those agencies to ensure that we have updated information to provide to the students. And that's been really, really handy, not only in the medical assistant, but also in our current political climate. She's really focused on a lot of legal resources lately. And it's her particular set of talents, but it's not necessarily something that a certificated staff member would necessarily need to fill. So I think we've learned some valuable lessons about the importance of having somebody to just try to keep our list of resources alive and current. So we're really grateful for her assistance there. So these are our current integrated learning objectives, and I'm putting a little bit of an asterisk there. At CASA Summer Institute, I will be joined by the ESL teacher who has the companion class to the CTE medical assistant program. And these are the learning objectives that we have used in the past. And we continue to use them, but one of the lessons that we drew out of the IET clinic was that we really wanted to bring things back to the standards. That our current learning objectives in several of our IET programs or our IELCE programs did not bring enough robustness, if you will, to allow teachers to accurately assess or to accurately provide the rigor. And so they were being placed in a more reactionary position when it came to understanding student needs. They would go through a lesson or they would go through a unit, and then they would realize, oh, well, the students didn't understand that. Okay, next year, let's add this piece in. And they just kept adding and adding more pieces rather than, okay, hold on, we don't have unlimited time and, lesson space for this. So what really are our objectives? So this summer, and Cindy's going to speak a little bit more about this, but this summer we're going to go back to basics. And I'm incredibly grateful for not just the willingness, but the enthusiasm of the entire team for doing this work. Because let's face it, going back to basics isn't exactly always fun, but there's such a sort of willingness to iterate in this team and a willingness to get down into the nitty-gritty of the details that I think we've had a couple of sessions so far and they have been fun. People are really starting to talk about what is needed for this particular class. Cindy's refrain at our most recent planning session was this class, because she's trying to pull down the scope. There's a lot of stuff out there that's lots of fun to teach. And especially, I think, and I'm going to maybe go out on a limb here, but in CTE, we're dealing with folks who are from the medical field and they want to share their knowledge. They're very passionate about that. But for this class, what do students need to know? What do students need to understand? And what do they need to be able to prove mastery on? And that's been really exciting to just, what are we doing with this? So these learning objectives might morph a little bit over the next 3 or so months. And I'm really hopeful that we're going to find something at the end of this process that provides for not only an increased level of rigor, that's appropriate for the goals of the course, which is to prepare students to meet or to prepare students to take and pass either the state or the national certification for medical assisting, but also to allow for a true integration of CTE and ESL. Because you might notice there's not a lot of English proficiency standards in these integrated learning standards. They're there, but to what extent should students be able to write or give a verbal presentation or discussion? To what extent should they perform? And that's the language that we're looking to incorporate. And we want to, at the end, have a guaranteed and viable curriculum that students can expect of us. So we're able to communicate to students that if you join our program, this is what we will provide. And the students understand that what they have, they're working towards very specific goals. Okay, I think I get to get off my soapbox now and turn it over to Cindy, who is going to take it from here.
Sure. And the lesson I've learned being at today's meeting is don't show up at EL Civics meetings unexpectedly because you will be recruited.
But you knew that.
I should have known. No, I'm perfectly happy to join in. Again, my name is Cindy Gravog, and I've had the pleasure of working at Civic, Castro Valley Adult School for this is my end of my 6th year. I've been roaming around in adult education for 15 years. And for all those of you who have been around a while, the IET, IELCE experience has been a roller coaster festival of, I don't know how to describe it exactly, but so much learning all the time. And I provide the English class for our Introduction to Healthcare Careers class. That class came about because we were realizing that a lot of our English learner students were getting really close to being able to participate in our healthcare pathways, but needed additional support. So that's where that class came about. And it's definitely a learning process. It's definitely fluid and changing and growing and developing. Since we've really been putting such a increased focus, more intentional focus on our IET program, successes for sure we've seen, increased enrollment in our programs. Our medical assistant program has really just continued to grow and develop the past couple of years, so that's great. And we have our community health worker. And now this year, even though it's still very much in progress, we do now have this new, what we would refer to as this bridge class, Introduction to Healthcare Careers, that we're developing. Success is also being able to offer so many different support features for students and really being able to provide them a full program, including all the wraparound resources they need to be successful. So that's wonderful. And then where it says staff expertise and attitude, this is something that we just recently kind of had a aha kind of discussion about how lucky we are that we have this staff, a team who many people have been, some of our teachers have been really, are some of the foundational members of our CTE program and ESL teachers, and we're pulling from so many different places. But one of the through lines I feel like is everybody's really open to working together. Change is hard. Can be really challenging, But I think people are very transparent about that. And, you know, there's always going to be some discomfort as far as, you know, your, you know, silos and territory. But everybody's just been really open to jumping in and trying to put all that aside and figure out how to make this the strongest program for the students. So I feel like the overall professionalism has been a huge success. And of course, there's challenges, and there will continue to be challenges. We have the goal definitely to increase the numbers of our students who are completing our programs and then are getting jobs in that field. And it's a challenge. It's for everybody. We're also looking at, as far as the MA class, the medical assistant class, you can see some of the statistics. We have 30% of all students who completed the program in the last 18 months reported taking and passing the CCMA exam. We definitely want to increase those numbers. Of the students who received ESL support during the MA program, 16% reported passing the exam. So overall, over 66% of all the students who haven't taken the exam yet. So we're constantly looking at how to improve those numbers. We're always looking at how to streamline the pathways and procedures, how to make it as efficient as possible and as uncumbersome, as easy as possible. I had to throw that big word in, as possible for the students. In particular, our EL students, but for all of our students to really be able to take charge of their own learning experience and be a part of the process. And then between having the wonderful opportunity provided by the Healthcare Pathways Grant, new staff joining our team, new class offerings, you know, it's like she said, Megan said, building the airplane in the middle of the flight. It's, you know, we're running as fast as we can, but it's, you know, we're always looking at how to get caught up, how to put systems in place so we're not always running and trying to just, you know, just a step ahead kind of thing. So those are definitely challenges. And next steps, it's kind of, I always kind of hesitate to say I'm excited for standards work. It's honestly not at the very top of my list in general, but I know. Megan, on the other hand, it's right up there at the very top. But we are really excited about really, I would say, efficiently using the standards to strengthen our programs, to get us more targeted, more intentional, and to get everybody focused. So that's certainly a good thing. We're really looking, as Megan said, when we did the IET clinic through CalPro, we had such a realization of how we need to revisit how our EL students are being supported, and really looking to make it a much more contextualized program between the English language and the CTE instruction. So we're working on that. And then at the same time, we're looking at how to streamline our pathways, how to make the pathways, of course, clear to us, but to make it clearer and easier for the students to see, you know, multiple entry points, multiple exit points, easier for them to have a clearer picture of what their options are and how they're going to get there. And thank you. Any questions for Megan?
Or Cindy?
Oh.
Diana has her hand up.
Question. I apologize. I stepped away briefly. Did you mention that through the IET clinic, you're also participating in coaching and how the coaching will help continue?
Yeah, so that's the second half of it. We just finished a few weeks ago. So we have not yet been contacted by our coach, but it's our hope that we'll be able to continue the work, especially where it comes to that bridge class, because we're still a little uncertain about how it fits.
I
Okay,
just want to
great.
make sure everyone on the call knows that CalPro, like CASAS, is the state leadership project, and it's covered, all costs are covered by CDE, and we really need you to participate so that we can fine tune these programs. Right, Lori?
Definitely. Thank you for mentioning that, Diana.
Thank you for your participation.
And Paul Kratzer has a question about AI. AI is changing the MA's day-to-day roles and duties. It's sometimes said that MA with AI skills will survive, but the MA without AI skills won't. Does your program help students learn AI tools and skills that apply to the MA's job?
I think while AI isn't, I mean, the standards were written before AI even existed. But I think the piece that is being called out is critical thinking. And that, to me at least, has more to do with AI than just, can you plug in a prompt to ChatGPT or any other tool, but rather, how do you understand the results that you're getting back and, again, able to iterate so that you get the result that you need instead of just accepting whatever the machine spits back out at you. So specifically to answer your question, Paul, no, we don't have AI called out in this what we're doing right now, but what we are focusing on pretty intensively is the idea of critical thinking, specifically in both CTE and ESL. So I hope that helps.
So if they do use AI, they'll be able to discern whether they should
Yeah.
follow it or not. Yeah, very important part. Great. Any other questions?
Can I just add something to Diana pointed out? Yes, we were able to, and we're really grateful to have been work with the IAT clinic this year. We had considered, in fact, Cindy's been pushing me for 3 years now to join the clinic, and I waited, and I'm still very happy that we did wait because we did not yet have CTE buy-in. And part of the culture that Cindy and I talked about and the willingness of folks to engage in the work is because the time is right. The need was felt and understood. And I'm, who knows? And hindsight and, Monday morning quarterbacking and all of that. But I really wonder if we would have had that same buy-in if the need had not been so clear for the CTE folks. And so getting that participation, that willingness to engage and to honestly give up a little bit of space for ESL has been incredibly powerful. So,
well, I appreciate that, Megan, and yes, that's a crucial point, both for the English, the ESL teacher, as well as the CTE and counseling staff and the whole staff in general, being ready to buy in or convincing people to have buy-in about what about these programs and how important it is to work with our English learners and how much success they can have when they have that support. So the most important thing is that your program is working now, that you went through the training now and that it's working for you. I love that 16% of your students have, I'm not sure if you said passed the test or have gotten jobs, but it's fabulous. And I know that will continue to grow. And we so appreciate both you and Cindy for presenting, because it's through this sharing that other programs feel that they can do it too. And hopefully you would be willing to share your email addresses. I will probably, I put yours here on our slide, and I hope you'll be willing to answer any questions that agencies would have in order to, get some assistance from you or some mentoring about this.
Yep, happy to do so.
Thank you so much. And I just want to thank everyone for being here. I think this is a great way to end our year, and with some inspiration about the digital resilience, as well as a great IET IELCE program. We look forward to seeing you on August 27th at our next meeting, and before then at the CASA Summer Institute. Are there any last questions for any of the EL Civics team or the or our great team at Castro Valley? See, I just have 2 messages here. I think everybody is saying thank you. So thank you so much. And we'll be posting this. I'll be sending the slides to all of the network, as well as posting it on the EL Civics support channel. Thanks again, everyone. Have a great end of your school year, and we'll see you in the new school year.